I do want to point out again, Alicia Vikander's performance as Ava. I think is just so good.
So we need to break the ice. Do you know what I mean by that?
Overcome initial social awkwardness.
So let's have a conversation.
Hello, Tig.
Hello, Eric.
So you just got done watching the 2014 science fiction thriller film Ex Machina, directed by Alex Garland, along with films like Arrival and Gattaca. This is among my favorite modern science fiction pictures. For those of you who haven't seen Ex Machina tells a story about a young computer programmer named Caleb Smith who wins a contest to go stay with the CEO of the world's largest tech company, Nathan Bateman. Once he arrives there, Nathan asks him to take part in conducting a Turing test on Ava, an artificial intelligence that he has created. A Turing test, of course, being the test that you give an AI to see whether or not it can pass as human. And from there, the movie kind of explores the concepts of artificial intelligence while also becoming an increasingly dark thriller.
So, of course, in the beginning, I was like, Caleb's a robot. That's just immediately what I went to. Of course. And not until he questions if he's a robot, which was awesome because I was going to be pissed if he was a robot because it seemed too easy. They kind of knew that people were going to question if he was a robot as well. So I'm glad that I kind of got I got suckered into that part of the movie.
But it also leans into one of the core themes of the movie, which is, could an AI actually achieve consciousness? And if it does, is it a living being? You know, sort of this moral question to struggle over. And the fact that Caleb himself is struggling with that, wondering if he might be a robot himself, because, you know, Nathan's like fucking with his head the whole time.
Look, do me a favor, lay off the textbook approach. Now the question is, how does she feel about you?
Nathan's an interesting character too, because Nathan's real hard to deal with through the entire movie.
Oh, are you fucking kidding me?
I got it.
Dude, you're wasting your time talking to her. She doesn't understand English. Just give her the napkin. Hey, Kyoko. Go.
Yeah, he's played by Oscar Isaacs, who does a fantastic job. All three performers actually in this movie are great. Domhnall Gleeson plays Caleb Smith. You Star Wars fans will know him as one of the evil bad guys from the latest trilogy. Oscar Isaac is Poe, the pilot from the new Star Wars movies, so there's that. And Alicia Vikander, I hope I'm saying her last name correctly, plays Ava, and she is brilliant. The Nathan character is tough to like, and there's times when you kind of feel like, okay, this dude's a villain.
There's something wrong. What's wrong?
There's nothing wrong.
But then there's other times when you feel like, no, he's just really eccentric. He's created these AI beings that look stunningly, remarkably human. And he's clearly having relations with some of these. Do these things have consciousness? And if they do, then isn't that abuse?
After a long day of Turing tests, you gotta unwind.
Everybody's busy.
That's, I think, one of the brilliant things about this picture is that it forces you to grapple with.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I grappled with after watching the movie, because there's a scene where Caleb sees the footage of the robots that have come along the way, and they're almost going mad.
I think one of the things it's kind of interesting that makes you have to dive into those questions is the end specifically. You know, Nathan has the big reveal at the end where he basically tells Caleb, she's manipulating you. She has learned so well that she is using everything that she knows to manipulate you specifically in order to escape.
So my only function was to be someone she could use to escape.
Yeah.
And by that point, you know, you're feeling pretty sympathetic for her. But then she leaves Caleb to die. She murders Nathan and then leaves Caleb to die. So that's a pretty big stunner right there. Like, because I don't know how like you felt, but I know on my first viewing, I kind of figured, oh, like the bad guy Nathan gets taken care of and the two of them go off.
Because at first she says stay, and you think like, oh, she's going to take care of shit and she's going to take him out.
Yeah, you think it's going to be a heroic ending.
Yeah, and then you realize like, oh shit, he can't get out, and she's just wants to get out on her own. She doesn't give a shit. When they meet in the hall, that's when I had this one thought where I was like, oh shit, this facility isn't to keep people out. This facility is to keep the robots in.
Yeah.
It makes you look at the whole future for humanity in a bleaker way. It's like that shit's gonna happen.
Yeah, because I mean, you see in Ava at the end there fakes it well throughout, throughout all their sessions, but at the very end, just no empathy whatsoever.
Yeah.
She's just focused on getting out. Though the ending also has two really important callbacks. The first one is the obvious one. If you remember earlier in one of the sessions, Caleb asks her, well, if you were going to go on a trip, where would you want to go? And she says she would want to go to a street corner just to like people watch.
Where would you go if you did go outside?
Maybe a busy pedestrian and traffic intersection in a city.
A traffic intersection?
A traffic intersection would provide a concentrated but shifting view of human life.
And of course, she does end up doing that after
Right.
leaving the facility. But the other callback is a little more subtle, but it's really important. In one of their earlier sessions, Caleb tells her this story about a girl, a woman who knew everything about colors, but she lived in a black and white room. And it wasn't until she was able to leave the room and see the blue sky above her and see the green trees that she finally became actually human. That's kind of Ava's journey there in the end. Ava is an AI. She's a computer. She's a husk there in Nathan's facility until she walks out, and they very purposely shot. She walks out. She's under the blue sky. She's under the trees going out to the helicopter. She's dressed in human clothes. She's indistinguishable at that point because she's put like the skin on from the others and all that. With that callback, you remember that story earlier. It's almost as if they're saying, okay, is she effectively one of us now? This is the sort of philosophical question that I think we're going to be struggling with for decades.
Right.
Probably longer than decades. We're going to be struggling with well into when we actually invent these things. And yet, even that aside, it's also just a really damn good thriller.
Like we were saying before with Nathan being kind of a dick through the whole movie, that creates a lot of tension, obviously.
Yeah.
Because not only is he an eccentric and comes off as an eccentric asshole, but he's also an alcoholic.
Yes.
Which like really messes it up because you don't know if he's going to be violent. He's always working out. So there's the tension of the fact that he's like stronger than Caleb. He's always drinking. He's sort of arrogant, and you're like, oh man, this is not gonna go well. But then, like you said, when you go back and you realize it's just boredom. Like he's just in this building by himself, so he's drinking himself to death, and he's just working out because he has nothing else to do.
He's bored. He's frustrated. He's made these incredible creations, and he's pretty sure that he's got it. He's pretty sure he's accomplished what he set out to accomplish. But I think there's also a part of him that recognizes that he did something dangerous.
Right.
But he's so arrogant in his own abilities that he still allows it to.
Like he has to finish it, even if he knows it's wrong. He has to.
Which is why, for a brief moment, you really root for Caleb when he outsmarts Nathan near the end there, when they go over his whole plan to reprogram the security and all that. Right. I do want to point out again Alicia Vikander's performance as Ava. I think is just so good.
She was real good at riding the line between feeling human and feeling robot.
I'm pleased to meet you, Ava.
I'm pleased to meet you too. I've never met anyone new before.
So we need to break the ice. Do you know what I mean by that?
Overcome initial social awkwardness.
So let's have a conversation.
There was a little bit of roboticness, but she didn't play up the robotic aspect of it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That could have really made things not work if she played up too much like I am a robot. Between her performance and the fantastic special effects used to bring her to life, and she goes and puts on actual clothes and a little wig and stuff like that. This is Pinocchio. She just wants to be a real girl. So you feel this deep sympathy for her, not realizing that she's manipulating the hell out of Caleb. Like, it's really dark when you realize what she's doing.
You sympathize with Caleb and Ava for the first time you say it. And then the second time, I would almost be mad at Caleb because I'd be like, you fucking idiot. Like, why are you, what are you doing?
Here's the thing. Even after repeated viewings and knowing what Ava eventually does, I continue to have deep sympathy for her and wonder to what extent the way she handled the end wasn't her just effectively lashing out at her abuser, taking care of her abuser, taking control of her own life. And I use the word life on purposely. The only thing that throws a monkey wrench into those works is what she does with Caleb. Because Caleb was always on her side and was always sympathetic, and he put himself on the line to save her. So that throws me.
I don't mind her using her to get out, but for her to use Caleb to the point where he's gonna die, take some sympathy away from me for her, because then now you're bad. You're a bad person. You're a bad human.
And now she's out in the world, out among us.
She's like a psychopathic robot.
Her learning really has just been like pulling in search results. You can almost even wonder to what extent her personality is driven by humanity. It's a reflection of humanity. The things that she does are a reflection of us.
I'm sorry, Ava, I don't understand.
You shouldn't trust him.
This film was both written and directed by Alex Garland. He was the writer on 28 Days Later. He wrote a science fiction film called Sunshine, also directed by Danny Boyle. Danny Boyle had directed 28 Days Later as well. He wrote Dread, or cult, modern cult favorite. And he's also the writer and director of the 2018 science fiction film Annihilation with Natalie Portman, which was also very good. I bring up his writing specifically for a reason. The way the film is structured, it begins as sort of you get into that procedural aspect of conducting the tests. First, you're along for the ride, sort of for that procedural aspect. But then slowly, the mystery of what's actually going on and what Nathan is hiding begins to build up. So by the time you get to that final act, you're both gripped by trying to figure out if this AI actually has consciousness, and trying to figure out, like, boy, this Nathan guy, he's like really awful, and what's, how are we going to resolve his badness and this mystery and all that. And then, of course, then in the end, as we've been talking about most of this episode, everything just gets exploded. This is the kind of science fiction that is in my wheelhouse, the kind of stuff that you watch it and it's entertaining while you're watching it, but then like the next day, you're just still things that you're turning over in your head.
Yeah, that's what good science fiction is supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, I love my giant spaceships and laser blasters and aliens just as much as anyone. Giant Star Wars fan, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
This is where my love of science fiction lies. And not only has it been on my list for a while, but unknowingly, Retro Gaming Junction name dropped and suggested this movie in the comments in our Arrival episode. I saw that and I smiled and said, "Oh, little do you know, my friend."
It's time. Oh, boy. I've had this one movie on my list for a while. I'm kind of curious to watch it because it is a cult classic. It's a cult classic 80s horror movie. The Stuff.
Light and free now.
The Stuff. Taste that delivers.
Tonight, America is in grave danger. We are under alien attack by a popular dessert known as the Stuff.
Don't eat that.
Tasty.
Oh my God. I to the best of my knowledge, I have not seen it. Oh my God, Paul Sorvino's in it.
Mm-hmm.
Garrett Morris is in there. All right, I will grumble my way through the stuff.
In the meantime, if you want to check us out on Patreon at Nerd Out With Me, if you want to help support us, make sure to leave a comment down below.
And also be sure to offer some suggestions about your favorite thoughtful science fiction movies. Stuff like Contact, Gattaca, Logan's Run.
Yeah, that was a thoughtful sci-fi movie. I was Tig. That's Eric. Thanks for hanging out at the movie club.